What's going on, guys? Dropadooski here. Today we're doing the day 1 T13 guide for the Monk for Season 13. Now I started with the Monk because the Monk is receiving the Sunwuko set for its Hedrig's gift for completing the seasonal journey, and this is by far the strongest set that we can get for any class in Season 13. So if you're wanting to get a jump start on the season and really get into that high-end content and speed farming fast, Monk is going to be your best bet. So let's jump right into the gear. With this setup, what I do with these guides is kind of go for the easiest route in regards to rolling yellows and turning them into legendaries and getting the pieces that I need in order to do T13 and do it fairly decently, right? It's not going to be as good as an optimized speed farming build, but this build is for the beginning of the season. So right when you get in, you can hit the ground running, get into that higher content, and then utilize something like this so that you can farm up the stuff you need for the optimized speed variation. So this build will be using the 6-piece Sunwuko set that you will get right when you complete the seasonal journey. And for my current variation, I am using a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Now I am going to tell you how you can do it without, but I will say that for the optimized speed farming setup, you're going to need Rorg. So if you are in a 4-man group, I'm sure there's multiple people that are going to need that ring. You should just go ahead and farm that ring. But if you don't feel like it or you have bad RNG, I will give you the alternatives so that you can run it without. So you use the 6-piece Sunwuko set, and then the very next thing I'm going to be rolling for is the Incense Torch and the Vengeful Wind. Now this is a one-hand legendary, or a fist weapon, a one-hand legendary fist weapon. This is a legendary Diabo. Upgrading Daibos and fist weapons in the cube will get you these two items, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm equipping the Incense Torch. The Vengeful Wind can go up to 7 stacks, and based on the Sunwuko set, you get 1000% increased damage for each stack of Sweeping Wind you have. So rather than continue to fish and fish and fish for a 7-stack Vengeful Wind, I would just take the first one I get, put it in the cube, and then wear the Incense Torch early. That way you can continue looking for a good Vengeful Wind and look for an Ingeom for the optimized speed variation and do damage in higher content, but without having to worry about getting that 7-stack Vengeful Wind. So these two things are what I would roll first, and these are going to enable you to do massive amounts of damage. That'll get you into T9, T10, T11 with just those two items, right? Then I will move on to my bracers. Pinto's Pride is a huge damage increase and also helps with survivability as it slows enemies by 80% when you hit with Wave of Light. Pinto's Pride, and then the Nemesis bracers, right? You want Nemesis bracers when you're speed farming so that you can get extra Death's Breath that enables you to gear faster and reroll items. So you're going to be rolling bracers, weapons, and then bracers. Then the third item, and basically the final item here, is belts. Now there's two variations you can go with this. I almost always go Gold Wrap when I'm starting with an early season build and even later into the season. Gold Wrap is one of the highest survivability things that you can take when it's coupled with the Boon of the Hoarder. So I will go for a Gold Wrap. If I don't get the Gold Wrap right away, but I do get Kushido's Soul, I will take that, and then I can take either a survivability gem here or an extra damage gem, as you could take Powerful and Trapped rather than Powerful and Boon of the Hoarder. But you can, there's a little bit of a flexibility there as this is the beginning of the season. Then last but not least, I will get my So's Grin. You're going to need this right away, right? So I would actually debatably say I'd go for So's before I go for Belt, just so that you have some distance here. So Muko is typically squishy, and the problem you're gonna have early on if you get the 6-piece set and the weapons and the bracer is that you're gonna be doing plenty of damage, but you're gonna be dying right away. So you don't want to have to be right next to the mob when you're dropping your bells. This helm enables you to cast it from wherever you are, so it lets you get that distance between you and the mob and helps to keep you alive early on in the season and later. As far as items that you need to roll, that's it. You could go 2 yellow rings here. You can go yellow boots. As you can see, I do have yellows on here to kind of mimic the beginning of the season. Or you can take any legendaries that you get. The other thing I will mention is that if you're running in a 4-man group, which I totally recommend for the beginning of the season, as soon as somebody gets a puzzle ring, do the puzzle ring. It doesn't have to be on max level. Even if you're doing a lower torment puzzle ring, you're gonna get the Boon of Hoarder for free when you kill Greed at the end. So as soon as you get a puzzle ring, make sure you get that gem and you level it up to 25. Boon of the Hoarder is the best way to farm gold efficiently. Rather than taking groups in and running puzzle rings for an hour, you can just have your Boon of the Hoarder on, especially once you get it to 50, and while you're doing keys, especially when we're in a speed meta, you're farming gold the whole time. You're farming tons and tons of gold. That way, yeah, you're going to do some puzzle rings, but you don't have to do as many, which gives you more time in the greater rifts, getting paragons, getting loot, getting your gem ups, getting more powerful so that you can rank higher at the end of the season. That is it in regards to the gear. If you don't want to go Ring of Royal Grandeur, the way that you would do this is you would ditch Nemesis Bracers and you would cube So's Grin and wear Somuko's Crown, because you really need that range. I did try this in multiple ways with the early on, because I have no paragons in right now other than movement speed, and when you have to get that close to them, there's not enough gold procking right off the bat with a level 25 Boon of the Hoarder, and you will die a lot, and nobody likes to die a lot in the beginning or at any point in the season. So I would say So's Grin takes prioritization over Nemesis Bracers, but once you have your Warg, you can use both and you don't have to worry about it. Let's jump into the abilities here. We're going to go with Wave of Light, Explosive Light. It's a huge damage bell, and it's the best one that is used most primarily for the pushing build and for speed farming. Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm. Then you're going to be using Mystic Ally, Air Ally. This gives you 100 spirit on use. I'm going to go into the usage between these two a little bit here once I get through with this. Dashing Strike, Quicksilver. You can use any of these, really. You can take the extra charges, you could take blinding speed for the dodge chance, this for the movement speed. I would kind of play around with this and see which one you prefer. I like Quicksilver because I like to have more dashing strikes as I go through. Epiphany Insight, this one is the one that gives you spirit, and with the bell builds you always are in that position where you are dealing with spirit management. So especially early on in the season, this coupled with this and then taking Exalted Soul should give you enough spirit to continuously do bells. You may run into some hairy situations with it, but this should be enough for you to get through in the beginning. And then here I take Mantra Salvation Agility just for some increased survivability, as early on you have the damage, but the survivability is lacking with the monk. My passives are Seize the Initiative, dealing damage to enemies above 75% life, increases your attack speed for 4 seconds, enables you to do more bells. Near Death Experience is an oh shit passive. You know, that way if you don't have any gold on the ground, you're not dying, or you're not completely dead, you get that extra life. Beacon of Etar so that you get more epiphanies, and then I take Exalted Soul here for more spirit regen. Later I would switch this out for a damage passive, but I am going to post the full-on geared optimal speed farming build later on today. So this is to start the season, and then you'll work towards the next video guide. Just to quickly mention the Mystic Air Ally and the Epiphany. Epiphany early on, even with cooldown on a couple of your items, is not going to be up 100% of the time. So what you're going to want to do here is use it, and then once it's gone, continue using your bells, and then once you run out of spirit, pop your Mystic Air Ally. Then you should have enough bells to maintain damage all the way until Epiphany is back up, and then you rinse and repeat. I'm going to jump into a rift real quick so you can see this, and before we go in, I will show you, I do have all of my paragons out. I did only put in movement speed. Of course you're going to have a little bit more paragon than that by the time you get to this, so you will have the ability to put some more stats in, but I figure for something like this, we'll just take them all out and show you that it works. The one other thing I'll mention here with gold wrap is that when you're using the gold wrap and not the other belt, you do have to manage your sweeping wind stacks. Your sweeping wind stacks will fall off if you don't do something. So what I always say is just keep your eye on them. You know what I mean? Keep your eye on them as you're going. You are going to get into situations where there are no enemies, and in those instances you just cast it one more time, because this is a build in regards to DPS. So when you start it out, you have one stack, and as you go forward and do damage with the bells, you continue to gain more stacks all the way up until you hit max. Once that falls off, you have to start back over at 0. So as you're running through and you don't have enemies, just remember to keep clicking Sweeping Wind as you go. And remember that Spirit is very, very is in a lot of need with this build, so you don't want to be like frivolously using abilities. So I'll just run and cruise while I'm going through, especially if there's no mobs, and then every so often use the spirit that I've regened to cast Sweeping Wind, and make sure to keep that max stack up. And as you can see, I mean, we did just get a pylon, which is going to give us a lot more damage, but even before that, you're kind of just cruising through T13. It's not a big issue. If you manage your Mystic Air ally and your Epiphany, you should have no problem doing bells. And we're in T13 with no Paragons, with a couple of yellow items in. So I hope that this guide is helpful for everybody. I'm going to go back to town and wrap this up. As I said before, I will be putting up the optimized speed build here shortly, later on today, but this is something that I started doing last season that kind of gives you a look into what it's actually like at the beginning of the season, what you can work towards, and then go from here into the efficient speed farming set. So it gives you steps in between, rather than here's a guide, you know, well, what do I do before that? This guide is supposed to help you with that. Big shout out to everybody that's been following the channel. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be doing a bunch of guides before the season starts, and then I'm going to continue with guides as the season progresses. I do want to do a shout out to Wolf Crier. I will be taking part of Level with a Cause. Level with a Cause has raised tons of money from the Diablo community and other gaming communities out there for charities. We do this at the start of every season. I will be going live for the season start on Twitch at 5 p.m. MST for myself, and I'll be going through the entire night and doing Level with a Cause all weekend long. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to stop by the Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Dropadooski. I'm on Monday through Saturday starting at noon MST and go all the way into the evening. Everybody, thank you so much. Keep your eyes out for the optimized speed setup for the Monk coming very soon. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, everybody. Good luck in Season 13. Peace.